Now, all right, let's get rolling. Thank y'all for coming. Appreciate y'all coming out to practice, and appreciate you. I think it's good for you to be out there. It's good for you to report back. Appreciate you not showing pictures of full 11 and video, so I appreciate y'all doing that. We had practice 11 today, and we're kind of right in the middle. And what we do is right up until our first scrimmage. We had a scrimmage on Friday. We went in the stadium. We tackled for most of it, and that was practice 9. So right at practice 9, like 1 through 8 is basically there's a lot of drills, fundamentals, group. And then starting at practice 9, it was all team. And then practice 10 was a little bit like you saw today. After you guys left, we did all 11-on-11 football after that. And we'll do that. We're going to do all team on Friday. We'll do mostly team again next Tuesday. Thursday it's a helmets practice, so it'll be, and then we'll have our spring game on Saturday, and we'll talk more about either myself or Monty will kind of give you the format for the spring game toward the end of next week. But that's kind of, we're in the evaluation piece. Is we work skills for development, drills for skill development. Now we're working a lot of team for evaluations, trying to get a good picture of where our personnel is, and like who's taking the next step and who has gone from a red shirt or who's gone from a backup to potential can play a lead role, who's a guy that was kind of off the radar that now is ready to be maybe a core special teams player. That's kind of the decisions that are made over the next. And then we really start trying to work on some opponent stuff and some different looks, because one of the things about spring is you want to rep your schemes, but you can get some bad habits if you're just going against your offense and defense basic looks. So we'll do some things on offense to get our defense ready. We'll do some things on defense to get our offense ready, for the season. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so with that, I'll take questions.
So Neal, follow up with a little bit of that. You went over that. I know Cody asked about most improved, but a little bit of fast climbers this year, guys that have maybe weren't factors in the past that now look like they could be two deep major special teams guys this year.
Yeah, I think from a special teams standpoint, I'm going to talk about some guys I think that are showing up. We've really prioritized those. A couple guys on offense will be Jalen Anderson. He's a guy that has never played special teams here, and it's really been a want-to deal. And so really stressed to him in January he needed to be a complete football player and be able to help the team. And he's came, and he's done really well. TJ Johnson is redshirted last year, and now TJ's coming out. And he is starting to – we do a lot of these competitions during spring. It's kind of controlled competitions for special teams, and TJ's been a real pleasant surprise in that and really starting to do that. Colin McBee is another guy. Start talking on defense is Reed Carrico has really, ever since Friday, has really put several nice days together defensively and special teams. Like he's going to be a factor on both. Talk about Zay Jennings, who's an early enrollee, a really good football player. It's happening really fast for him on defense, but you can see his talent and his ability on special teams. He's a guy that's playing himself into that. Derek Burlitz is a guy that's, that I think is going to help us in our punch shield in the back line on kickoff return. And so he's been in our program now going on his 3rd year, and he's showing signs of being one of those guys. I think Jordan Jackson, defensively and on special teams, is shown some growth, especially here since Friday. But those are some guys, like some other guys are sticking out, like Caden Beiser and a couple other guys that have done well on special teams. But those are some kids that are really kind of showing up.
Curious, when you got an older team, do you plan and practice differently in the spring than you would if you had a bunch of younger guys that you had to train and develop?
Well, I think that it's really not necessarily anymore if you have a young or an old team. It's just kind of you got to be careful, everything moves so much. There's so much movement, and so maybe 5-10 years ago, you're really trying to get a bunch of reps with what may be your first team and maybe your second team. And now it's not like that because there's going to be some movement. And so like let's say at offensive line or defensive line, like chemistry and having groups play together is really important, especially on the O-line. But the spring is there's moving parts, so what you try to do is you're rotating guys because everybody needs to learn how to kind of play with everybody because you don't know what the fall is going to look like. And so it's more of the other thing too is like I think is and this is why we do this is I think guys generally like just playing the game, so like to keep our energy levels up from kind of the midpoint or I guess the last third of the spring is we just play a lot of football, 11 on 11 football, try to make it competitive situations. That's kind of the thought process.
Neal, you mentioned Zay earlier. Something I don't think we've discussed a lot is early enrollees are the true freshmen. But give us a little evaluation of them, and any of them you think could help you in the fall?
Yeah, I think that Zay, Israel Boyce would be the other one Israel's really kind of second part of the scrimmage on through today's practice is coming along. Nate Gabriel is a big athlete, and he's learning, but physically he's going to be ready to help us. And I think at that nose position will be able to give us some snaps in the fall. Just trying to think here as far as any other early enrollees that have really kind of jumped out to me. Or anybody that haven't. Anybody that's off that you want to ask about?
No, I mean, you've got Kinsler, I guess.
Kinsler, he got more reps today, and he's going to be a really, really good player. And we're moving him around because he's a smart guy, and so he's been getting some reps, and he can be a factor. I tell you, Jackson Marco, he's got to continue to get stronger. He's getting a lot of reps because Cole's not going, and I don't know if it's going to happen as quick as the fall, but he's going to be a quality tight end for us, and he has really good hands. And as he gets stronger, he's going to be good at the point of attack because he's big.
Based on sheer numbers, would you say this is the most you've got ready, capable to play right now at any time since you've been here in terms of just sheer numbers on offense, defense, special teams?
Yeah, I think that when we get to the fall, I would say in the fall, because we're still missing some pieces right now, whether that's portal. Then we got those signees that haven't gotten here, but in the fall that would be accurate as long as everything stays. Yeah, I would say in the fall that's absolutely going to be the case. And where it really shows up is on special teams. Like we do this, we call it a 4-on-4 drill, and it's really a competitive drill, punt, return, and we did it the other day, and like as we watched it as a staff, the comment was, I forget who said it, I don't know if Jeff said it, but it was by far the most competitive, and it was like a lot of good player reps, which I think is a credit to our overall depth and guys just understanding the techniques that we're teaching in those areas.
I got to ask you this. I asked Jeff this on Monday. Of all the skills that you do in practice, the one thing that you do up to the collision is kickoff. How do you know what you got on kickoff or kickoff return? Because you only go up to a certain point. That's the only thing I can think of in sports. You don't do the actual full thing.
Yeah. It's a science, and we didn't master it last year because we weren't very good on kickoff. I think what we try to do, and this is in the spring, really overall in special teams, like punt and field goal are really the only teams that we do all 11. Most of it is part whole. And so what I mean by that is in the spring is we're going kind of individual techniques and then kind of pods. So when I say pods, maybe it's the left guard, left tackle on punt. Maybe it's the right up back, right returner, right end on kickoff return. On kickoff, maybe it's, the guys that are, kind of the ball guy and the capper. We're working those in pods, but we don't work all 11. Now, once we get in fall camp, we do, but it's limited, and it's probably less than 5 full speed. We do a kick scrimmage where I know we hit 2 live, and then we probably get at the start of practice, 2 or 3 more leading into the first game. And that's it. Yeah, and that's it. And it's hard, and like what we tried to do to get better at kickoff is a lot of our tackling drills that we do, now as part of our special team circuits are kickoff tackles. Like we missed a ton of tackles just overrunning the ball from the backside. So now what we're doing is we're really working a wrap tackle where we're sprinting and we're practicing it on the track landing pad. So it's not putting a bunch of force on your shoulders. But just that was a point of emphasis in off season, is trying to figure out how can we practice these tackles that we're missing on kickoff without having 22 bodies out there.
Having more linebackers, though, certainly helps.
It's going to help in special teams. Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's going to help kickoff. Our bandit spur bodies, they can, like Tyron Bradley, Ty Friend, those guys can run well too. Like Sean Martin's a guy that he runs well. Like he's like 19-20 all the time on the GPS. So like he's a guy that could even be a factor on kickoff for us too.
When you were named coach, I'm sure you had a vision of your progress, and of course everything happened to change that vision. I mean, the road was not a straight road to where you got. But are you now where you thought you might be at this point, or are you still trying to catch up from COVID, from NIL and transfer and all that?
I just think that this is the way I look at it, Bob, is like, so after that season in 22 where I felt like we underachieved, like I just hit the reset button on a lot of it. And so I don't know, I probably didn't have 6-year plan when I got here, as far as just thinking about what we'd look like going into year 6 in the spring. And so I probably can't answer that question. What I can say is after that 22, where things didn't go the way I thought they should, or the way we didn't play as well in any phases I thought we were capable of, so we underachieved, is we just changed a lot of what we were doing. And there was just a big reset in our program. And so now what I think of is, all right, we are in like month 16 of kind of the reboot, and we're making progress. I can't sit here and tell you in the spring. I'll be able to tell you probably after 3 or 4 games in the fall. But that's the way I look at it. We're kind of month 16 we're in spring, kind of the second year of our reboot. That's the way I'm thinking about it.
Are you starting to become the team, though?
Yeah, like the main thing on that is just from a simple. There's a lot of things off the field and a lot but from a simple football point is we want to be a team that is disciplined, it's strained, it's tough, and it's smart. And so, and all of those traits take absolutely no talent. And so what we do is, like, we have things that we do from our winter program through spring ball to summer to fall camp into the season on our Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that we are working that identity of like who we have to be successful. And again, it's just being disciplined, it's straining, it's being tough, that's mental and physical toughness, and it's being smart. And so we take in this 12-month approach to football, who we are from a football identity standpoint. And I think some of the fruits of our labor, like I'll give you an example, is like we're tackling much better in the spring. Well, we're in month 16 of a total revamp of how we taught tackling, how we worked it, and it's a year-round approach from even going back into the winter, how Mike in strength conditioning, how they work angles and how we work deceleration and things like that into the spring ball, into our summer OTAs, into fall camp. And so, like, we're showing signs that we're a much better tackling team, which goes under physical toughness. And we work it, like we talk a lot about like striking with your hands because that's part of physical toughness. Well, we work that in the weight room, like on these strike pads we have. We do grip training, so we're in progress of like that identity that we need to be. I'm pleased with where we're at, 16 months into it, but we've not arrived. But I can't, if we sit here after 3 or 4 games and you ask the same question, I'll be able to give you like, yes, I think we're where we need to be, or no, we're not.
the injured guys from the spring, are rehab going well? Any
Yeah,
setbacks there? Or
No,
any-
so Asani is, I think he's on track. He won't be back in the spring. You know, TJ Crandall's been down with a hamstring. It's not serious, but it's nagging. He'd like to be out there. We'd like to be out there. We'd like him out there. Jacoby, I told you that's going to be right up into the fall, early in the season. Anybody else you're asking about it?
I mean, it looked like Cole and Tom.
Oh yeah,
are
so
coming
yeah,
back.
so yeah, CJ. So going back, so CJ has done everything except take contact. He could play in a game if we had a game, but he's going to be fine. Cole had a little operation upper body, nothing serious. He'll be full go. He'll be fully released in the summer. They're doing individual drills. Y'all saw him out there today. They're just no contact at this point. Tomas is the other one. He's starting to do individual. He could not do. He got released to do individual, I think, the beginning of last week. So he's out there doing individual, but won't do any 11-on-11 work. Grayson. So Grayson just had another procedure. He's kind of had some really bad luck with a lower body, just kind of nagging. He missed some of the winter, came back, practiced early in spring, just didn't feel 100%. So he got a little procedure done. And I think it's about a month. He's about a month out from being able to run on hard ground, I think.
Like McIntyre on purpose.
Yeah, so McIntyre, he had a lower body injury on today's Wednesday, right? Monday. Yeah, and we'll know more about that probably later in the week. Didn't look good though.
Your receivers, part of the just moving guys around. I guess, and maybe this is always true, but you want people to know as many things as possible, depth, all that stuff. But like tactically, advantageous for you to have people who can just keep the defense. I'm not guessing, but you can't. It's hard to match up. I guess if you're constantly moving your pieces around, there's something there
Yeah.
for you all that's good. Part of this versatility.
I think what we're trying to do is in the spring, it's as much trial and error as anything. Like we want to teach them, Mike, conceptually. So, like if you think about it, anytime you're in a 2x2 set offensively, you usually have some type of two-man concept to your left and two-man concept to your right. And so there's multiple ways to teach it. You can just teach, hey, this is your route that you do. Every time we call this is what you do. Or you can teach the concept, all right? So early on what you do, if you get a guy that comes in the summer or they get there in fall camp, you just want them to know their individual responsibility. But now we've got all these guys outside of Jaden Bray that have been in the system now since we hit the reboot last January. And so now what we're trying to do is teach them conceptually. And it keeps them on their toes because it gets a little monotonous in spring practice. So it keeps them on their toes. So like Hudson Clement, he's probably more comfortable outside, but we're challenging him so he learns all the spots inside and out. And so he knows what to do. Traylon Ray, he feels more comfortable outside, but he's been getting reps inside, so he knows what to do. And so I think it's about, trial and error, teaching them the concepts, gives you some flexibility once you get in the fall because if you have some injuries or things like that, they know what to do, and then they have some comfort because they've gotten some reps against good people.
Could there be a situation where a guy is, I don't know, if he's like a Y for a series and next thing you know, he's a Z outside? Or is
Yeah, if you like today, if you were watching, like Hudson did that today. Like Hudson played inside for a series, he played outside for a series. We've been messing around playing Rodney a little bit, like as a nickel on defense. And so, like when Rodney went over and took some snaps on defense, Hudson came in and played. And we're messing with Rodney on that just because he's got really good lateral quickness. He played defense in high school, and it'll give us some flexibility there. And he's done pretty well. So we just been throwing him in there a little bit.
Depth of linebacker allow you to do some different things?
Yeah, it's our most complete room. They've got to go out and make plays, before I say it's our best. But, like, there's a lot of competition in there. And that's what you want. You want competition in every single one of your rooms. And if you look at it now, I mean, we got, 6 guys really that are competing. And, again, going back to what I was telling Mike is conceptually, too, is they're playing both positions, so they have to know both Mike and Will. And so that keeps them on their toes. Josiah Trotter, it's been nice to have him. Like, he just plays the game the right way. Like, he's going to make mistakes, but it's mistakes you can deal with because he plays so hard. And he has a physical presence. So excited as he continues to get comfortable playing in this defense.
You told me to check in with you. I don't know if you've had enough time yet, but evaluating what you need moving forward. For
Yeah, I think so. Big part of it'll see, who we have that's not going to be here, right? And I think when you think about it, like, you want all of them. You want everybody that, like, we had a team meeting yesterday, and I was saying, like, we don't avoid it. Like, the portal's open. Like, it's not like everybody's walking around going, I hope they don't figure out the portal's open, right? Now, they know it. And so, it's part of the kind of the reboot that I was talking about is one thing is, man, we're really transparent with our guys. Like, portal's open, and what that basically means is everybody's a free agent, and so everybody has individual choices. And I think the thing that, obviously money's a factor for some more than others. Some, I think it's a little bit misleading what the narrative is out there on some of the money. So digging to what the truth is kind of what really hard. And I said this too to our guys yesterday, and I really mean this. Like, everybody talks about, there's a ton of benefits of being a college, like, football player or a men's basketball player. They're making money, more than they have, and they deserve it, right? But what people don't talk about is there's an added pressure element. There's this comparison component that wasn't there when I was playing, which doesn't seem too long ago. When I grow facial hair and I see all this gray, I'm like, ooh. But there's a comparison component, there that and kind of a FOMO, their fear of missing out, or they look on social media, and I think that puts a lot of stress on them. And I think a lot of these guys get stress from outside influences that really and some of them come from home, some of them come from agents or things that they don't really know what exactly is going on within their sphere, and so I think those pressures are real, and I feel for them. And it's there's a ton, like I said, there's a ton of benefits to playing Power 4 football, but there's also a lot of pressure that a lot of people don't understand or don't talk about. And so, like, during this time, like, our players have a lot of pressure, and so I think that they always, money's a factor. I think the experience that you're having is a factor. And I think your individual situation is a factor. And so, like, everybody, they got to think about those things. And I want everybody that practiced today, everybody that was in our team meeting yesterday and today, I want them part of our program. And we care about them. But at the same time, I get those decisions. And if we have some movement, I think that our secondary, we got to continue to take another, we need one or two more bodies. We just don't have the depth there, I think we're better, but we need some depth. Depending on how a couple injury things work out D-line wise, that could be a potential area of need too. I think the injury picture will tell us on that.
Could we go back to Rodney playing nickelback?
Yeah.
Spring thing, or
Yeah, I think to be determined. Yeah, like I told him in recruiting, like when we were going through the recruiting process, I can remember telling Big Rod this is he played corner in high school, and I used to give him a hard time because, like, he played over there and he never showed up in the picture, right? He was never getting tackles or anything. But what you could see is, like, he could play man coverage. Like, he really and he didn't spend any time on it, right? He was a raw football player in general, and he played, most of his practice time was spent at corner or at quarterback. But there's so much, like, when you're playing defense in basketball, and I watched Rodney play basketball just because he was so close. I probably saw him, whatever the number of legal times I could see him, I saw him. So I can't remember if that was, I think it's 3 times. But when, like, you play man in basketball against good people and you stay in front of them and you have this presence where you got to feel where you can always play man-me ball, and he did that in basketball really well. Stayed in front of people. He wasn't a guy that crossed over, just naturally could stay and had really good ball. Like, he had a lot of steals in basketball. And so that translated in 2 areas for me. Number one, I knew he had great ball skills, even though you don't see him catch a bunch of passes in high school football because he was throwing them if they were throwing. So I knew he had great ball skills, but the other thing too is like I knew he had great change of direction and he had skills that where he could go over and play defense. And so what we've done is we're not really coaching him much. It's kind of one of these things where, hey, we tell him like, hey, this is what you're going to do, and we meet with him for about 2 minutes, and he goes out there, and it's like, if he looked bad, then we just went, "I'll just kidding, come back over," But he's looked pretty good, and so like, we're teaching him a little bit now, and so definitely could be like he's an offensive player. Like, get me wrong, he's an offensive player. He's pushing to be a starter at receiver, and he's a guy that we want to get him the ball. Like, he had a great scrimmage on Friday, like really a great scrimmage. Like, was really excited about his growth at receiver in that scrimmage. But he's also a guy that, could potentially, if he stays, could give us some snaps at nickel. And maybe that doesn't put stress on us where we have to go find somebody else.
Did you have a two-way player?
Yeah, I think it's doable. I really do. Like, I don't think now the kid at Colorado, Travis Hunter, like what he's doing is special because he's playing a ton of plays. And I don't think we're at a standpoint where we need him to do that. But I think it's a deal where he could play, 6 to 10 on defense and wouldn't take away from anything he's doing on offense. We just have to watch what we did with him on special teams.
Don't you have to do that in this game now? The more 2-for-1 players you have, the more versatile guys, the more depth you have.
I just think you got to be open to it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Rodney's like I just told him one day in the hall, I was like, hey, why don't you go over there and we'll see you, we'll put you in our dime package and see how you do. And he was like, oh yeah. I was like, remember I told you in recruiting? He's like, yeah. I was like, let's go see what it looks like. So I think you just got to be open to it. We had a kid, Marcus Jones at Troy, and he's playing for the Patriots now, but great player. I wish I would have got him here then, but Marcus, great kid, and we used him on. He was a corner, and he was a great punt returner, great kickoff returner, and we played him. He was a corner; that was his number one position, and we used him on offense. And he hurt his shoulder his second year with us, so that had been my last year at Troy. He hurt his shoulder, and on defense, it's hard to protect. You can't really protect. On offense, you can kind of protect yourself. You can go down, like if you're going to get hit. And so he was like, man, he was on me about playing. And I knew he was a special player, so I was like, eh. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, you can play. And, his mom and dad, he got released by the doctors, but I was kind of like, man, it's a shoulder. Eh. And so we just played him on offense for 2 weeks and told him he only played offense. And then from that point on, we played him both ways. And you can do it, because now you can't. I think it's really hard like that. Like what the Hunter kid's doing is special, but like I think you can dabble for sure.
I mean, your wide receivers are learning all the positions. Your defensive backs. I mean, you have to do that today. If you have one guy that only plays one spot, I mean that's kind of robbing your depth a little bit.
You can, and you got enough time now.
Yeah.
The OTAs in summer, that stuff has really helped. Where you can meet football wise. Yeah. You should be able to do football almost year round. Where you don't want to do too much, but guys their knowledge should be better.
Recruiting wise, you've had a lot of guys come through the building that we see all the time. Different recruiting off the success you had last year that maybe in previous years.
I think that I think there's a couple things. It's easier just because I don't have to deal with the narrative that I was dealing with last year, so that helps. But we've also had a lot of success with freshmen, and most people want to play early now. So I think that has really helped. And we've been pushing these spring visits because I just think that the way the recruiting model works is things happen fast. So we've had a lot of 25 kids here, but we've had a lot of 26s too. And for them to watch spring practice. And they can observe things in spring practice they don't get during a normal recruiting, like a game visit or a junior day or an official visit, because it's the only time they can actually see a practice. So they see what the depth looks like. They can see the schematics that we're running. They also can see the coach-to-player interactions, the player-to-player interactions, and those are critical, and they get a feel for, like, what is the environment, at practice. And so we've really been pushing guys to come, and we've had a bunch. It's we've had a lot going on in a good way.
Neal, I've got more basketball I guess if you got a lineup of like 5, 6, 7 guys, it's pretty hard to defend. Your receivers not the same size, but heights and weights are pretty similar. I
Yeah.
imagine that helps with inside and outside too. That's part of the plan, but it's maybe functions that way too a little bit.
Yeah, we got one. We don't have the real long guy. You know, if you follow us in recruiting, that's the piece that we're trying to get. Is I like our body types like Jaden Bray, Traylon Ray, like Hudson, like those are really good outside body guys. And Preston, y'all can see him. He's put on about 10 pounds, and he's got this innate knack for how to adjust his body. And that's a talent. You know, I'd love to tell you we taught that. That's just a talent that he has. We're missing like a real long guy, but that's the only really body type that we're missing in that receiver room is just a 6'4" plus guy.
You know, I've got a spring game question, and this is just something I've been thinking about. Teams keep experimenting with what to actually do in spring games, and some of them just cancel. Would there be any value in like playing in different venues, like just for the novelty aspect of it? Like,
there is like change of scenery does you know, like fall camp stuff. Like I've been a proponent. Like there's a couple different places in southern West Virginia that I would be for if we could make it work financially. Because I do think a change of scenery does. You know, the way that works. Like every time I go to the beach, I feel better coming back. You know, like it's like change of scenery definitely helps. You know, the spring game stuff is we've done a little bit of everything, man. We made it kind of a, you know, Lane got a bunch of, we didn't go quite as far as Ole Miss did, but like at Troy we would make it kind of a more of a like celebration and fun and like, because to me, like I want the spring, now like a couple years because people administratively just wanted a spring game. So like, all right, shit, if you want to be boring, we'll be boring, you know, but like, to me, like the spring game is unique, and you know it's like how many inter-squad games, you know, like let's do something fun, let's do something, you know. So we've got a couple of really good ideas, especially around getting our young people involved, like some young fans, getting them down on the field and doing some things. We're going to play, you know, we're not going to play 4 quarters of live football on a week from Saturday. You know, we're gonna play some football because our fans deserve to see what our team, like our players, and our players like competing too. But we're also going to do some competitions, and we're going to get some people involved and do some things that'll make our fans, especially want to bring their young people. You know, I always think, all right, hey, Dax is 9. Like, what would make him be entertained at this spring game? You know, like if I'm bringing, all right, my kids, like what is something that would be like, man, this is a different experience? Because when we play Penn State, man, you're not getting on the field, right? You're not going to have a chance to go up to Sean Martin, dap him up, or talk to Garrett Green. So how can we do some things in the spring game that maybe makes a family that maybe they can't afford to come, or a family that wants to have an experience meeting a player, taking a picture of a player? How can we make this a special deal, especially here in West Virginia, because we're the state's team, right? Like, we're the state's team, and we need to be accessible. And so we're and when we're ready to announce it, I think it'll be a fun day a week from Saturday.
Huey Mack fan, more Charles Wesley.
Hey,
guy.
listen, I'm for all local people making it. All right, he had a cool video. I know Clint Trickett was in that video, and so I know his music. What about Charles Wesley, man? He's opening up for Luke Combs. I look up, he's playing in the Brewer Stadium. I think that I'm for all these guys, really. Like, I'm for any of these local people that can make it. You know, I felt the same way growing up in Kentucky. You look at all these guys like that from Eastern Kentucky that have made it huge, and it's guys and girls that have made it huge in country music. I just think that I know what it feels like being from a small town, and you've been able to do things that haven't been done before, and I know how people get behind you. And I was telling Charles Wesley this. I can't remember. I don't know if that was when I saw him in concert or when he was at the baseball deal, but man, what a cool, like you can feel, like I went to that concert back, whenever we did that Country Roads uniform reveal, and like everybody's just pulling for him to do well. You know, like I went down the Players Championship, and a buddy of mine, and so the first song they played is Q Country Roads. I got in his car and he played Q Country Roads. I'm like, oh, you know this? He's like, oh, this is awesome. And I just think it's cool, you know, like anybody that's local, and like he's doing his music's a little bit different. He's got a unique sound, and yeah, so for sure I'm pulling for him. I'm glad he's opening up spring game. Anybody else? All right, thank you all.